We looked at Rolls and said,
That's very good. Nice meeting you.
Robert Kawa, District Production Officer, Visa District.
Region comprising of Kasese, Kamwenge, Hoima, Bulisa, and we are working in different locations, and we are going to receive a presentation by one of us, Alex, and we will get the details of what this program is all about. But what I must mention is that it is a program funded by the Dutch government through IUCN Committee of the Netherlands, and that's why you see why we have invited the deputy ambassador, and also because there are a lot of minerals in the Alberton region. That's why we have also invited the minister in charge of minerals. There are minerals in Kasese, minerals in Hoima, and also minerals in Bulisa, and minerals in Kamwenge. And most of the ecosystems are degraded. And that's why we have invited you to introduce to you this program so that we can work together and see how we can restore some of those ecosystems so that we can mine the minerals well and enjoy other ecosystems, and also the other ecosystems also survive. So at this juncture, I will welcome the chief guest and the honorable minister. We shall give you some time to talk, unless you want to say hi to people, then we can invite.
Started in December last year, so it is a few months running, and it is scheduled to end in June 2015. As Frank has said, it is funded by the Royal Netherlands government through 3 international NGOs, the Wetlands International, the IUCN Netherlands Committee, and both ends. So these are the ones that directly interact with the donor of this program. And here on the ground in Uganda, you have the 3 NGOs, NAPE, Uganda Wildlife Society, and FIEGO, as the implementing NGO partners in Uganda. The program focuses on the Albertine Rift. As Frank has said, there are reasons why this program identified the Albertine Rift as the area of operation. But for purpose of presentation, will clarify that the Albertine Rift was chosen because the landscape, the features, the people, the dynamics that take place in that part of this country are capable of demonstrating that there is a need to sustain or enhance the linkages between ecosystem and people's livelihoods and development aspirations. Why does the program believe so? It's because there's rich biodiversity. I think those who come from there, our colleagues from Bulisa, Kasese, we don't need to remind you about that. But also, there are extractive industries that are going on there. And when I say that, of course, the Honorable Minister, that's why he's here. We are talking about minerals and other resources like oil. But more interestingly is that the same region has a high and diverse population. If you add up the population of the districts that house the Albertine Rift, we are talking about approximately 6 million people. But that's not important. The key issue is that their livelihoods are largely dependent on what they derive from the ecosystems in terms of the goods and services. So it's that interaction that rendered the choice of the Albertine Rift and the suitable location for this program to demonstrate the linkages between the quality of the services we derive from ecosystem and the livelihoods of the people who depend on them. When we talk about the Albertine Rift, you tend to get the sense that there is high concentration of protected areas because of the high biodiversity. Maybe a few of us in this room were born before 1939 when some of these places were made protected areas. But that's the situation we are in. This expounds a little more on the fact that the ecosystems there are good and reserved for biodiversity values, for the biodiversity goods and services. But as I said, again, you have high population of people depending on these resources. So this program, I'm sorry about the visibility of this map, but what I intended to show here was that one of the locations that would be targeted is in the Kasese district, along Mohocha River and around Lake Katwe, and also in Kamwende district along the Mpanga River. And I will come back to explain the kind of activities that are being targeted. When you cross to Bulisa, you know that on the extreme left is the Lake Albert, and all those different shades depict the different land uses. And here you're talking about a national park, you're talking about 2 wildlife reserves, you're talking about forest reserves in one district, or being shared by the district. And so the interaction becomes interesting in looking at the interaction with water and the other land resources. In Hoima, you get the same situation, that you have water on the one hand, you have forest on the other hand, and then you have the concentration of the oil and gas exploration and production activities. It is important to note that there are activities that target national level interventions, especially those to deal with development policies and trying to work on how they can be more enabling to support the objective of the program, which is about ecosystems and people. But also, the people that Her Excellency represents in this meeting are keen to also interact with us here. So there are activities that seek to promote what we call the North-South cooperation, to share experiences, to learn from each other. And therefore, it's our program, it's their program, and we meet at that level. So what do you see on the ground? Because we've talked of districts, we've talked of the Albertine Rift. On the extreme left, it's one of the sites that was active at that time when carrying out oil exploration. And there are several of such sites at different stages of operations. On the right-hand side, you, right, you know I'm also one of you, and many others. So that will be one of areas of intervention. It will also try to promote practices and measures that would minimize the negative impacts of mining in protected areas. At the back of our mind, you realize that there is still need to provide for extractive industries in national parks through policy and legislation. That granted, there is also the actual practice of doing it in a way that you minimize the likely negative impacts. So that would be another area of intervention by this program. To target businessmen like me, and not from the Dutch, to make sure that they promote good business principles here, the way they do it at home, and lead by example and show responsibility over our lifeline, which is our ecosystems. The program will deal with civil society organizations more on the aspect of capacity and enabling them to participate in the processes of development and planning, including those to deal with RED. And then direct interventions with communities on aspects of climate change, and the entry point being RED plus activities. The program will seek support and influence strategies on how to better govern the ecosystems. We are talking about governance in terms of policies, participation, not management holding the instruments of power and you are a manager. We are talking about governance more on the aspect of participation and respect for access and use, but in a sustainable way. The program will seek to empower people to understand and also to continue to enjoy the ecosystems. So Frank, when I was trying to extend my seat away from my former neighbor, I was wary of this kind of situation, of managing in practical ways with the people on the ground for better environment and also for deriving the livelihood services. So you can see that the program is at policy level, is at institutional level, is practically going to be on the ground. And that's why in my earlier slide, I did indicate that it's at national level, it's at community level, it's at global level. And quite a number of interventions over the next 4 years are being proposed. So your participation as districts is to help you now realize that when the implementers come on the ground, you are able to say, so where are we starting from? Because we know now what you want to work on. But let's look at the issues on the ground. On the left, we are talking about cows and water flowing. But close the picture, you realize that that's not the best way to utilize that water source, environmental degradation. And the river systems that are being targeted, it's partly because of such an activity. So we are talking about integrated water resource management along the targeted river basins. On the right-hand side, my apologies again, it's not clear, but this is part of one of the wildlife reserves that was burnt during the last dry season. The issue is not that fire is bad. The issue is, if it's a management tool, how does it promote the ecosystem and safeguard the lives of those animals, livestock, and people who depend on pasture, which they cannot get like today under that kind of situation. On the left, a nice signpost of some of the companies. Did I hear someone from town? That's the animals, because it will take us a longer time to prevent you from, right? On the right-hand side, a nice assemblage of canoes. But the picture tries to show the over-concentration of the fishing activity and the likely effect on, exhausting the fishery resource itself. So what the program, for instance, will be looking at in this case is how to balance the two. We need the fish, but we also need to protect so that it can continue to be available. We need to access fish, but we need an organized way, not the way those canoes are packed. Okay? So those are the kind of issues that the program would be looking at. Here comes HIMA. On the left, again, we are talking about corporate responsibility in a balanced way. There are social services, schools, clinics, but there's also the environment, and there are other aspects that are not normally addressed in social corporate responsibility. The program will try to interest those companies to look into that as well. On the right-hand side, if those machines don't belong to the Dutch company or European Union, maybe the company doing it comes from there. Development is wanted, but in a sustainable way. Conduct it in a way that is respecting the economics of business and the economics of survival. And so the program system management. Lake Cafe, somebody introduced himself as from Lake Cafe. You can see the executive director that is balancing on delicate highway between the ponds. But the issues there is that that is a resource that has sustained people for many years, but the trends of its survival start to show that better way of extracting the resource is needed now. The right-hand side program is targeting to benefit quite a number of stakeholders, as many as we are represented in this room. We are talking about community agents of change, and the program is seeking to work through them, enable them to do better what they are doing, and be able to continue to do that later. The community and the beneficiaries. The program recognizes cultural values. I think we have even Buganda culture here, although the program is in the Albertine Rift. It will target government agencies responsible for management of these resources. That's why we have UA, we have NFA, I think wetland people being the quality of life of the rural people. I want to stress that because at the end of it all, the evaluation will be coming to say, what change did you create? And so the project implementers are aware of that. We are all going to participate in the implementation, but at different levels. The civil society, I'm sure you have been told, some of you, that you will be the ones to do the good work on the ground. The people will be the direct implementers as well as beneficiaries, the various government agencies.
Members in Uganda, colleagues, members of parliament,
distinguished invited guests, the executive directors of the Institute for Energy Governance, National Association of Professional Environmentalists, and Uganda Wildlife Society. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, I would like to thank you for inviting us to address the important issue of sustainable natural resource management in the Albertine Graben. As you are aware, the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development is a custodian to many activities taking place in the Albertine Graben. We understand that oil and gas activities, like any other development, have an impact on the environment, and as a ministry, we have endeavored to reduce the footprint. This we have achieved through the employment of best practices in the petroleum industry and physical monitoring of activities being carried out by oil companies. I'm sorry, politicians are asked many things. When you represent people, they think you should be there every day. Sustainable development can best be defined as the ability for the current generation to utilize the health resources without compromising the livelihoods of the future generation. Much of Uganda's population depends on activities such as farming, forestry, fishing, mining, quarrying, and soon oil production. These can be termed as the primary industries that facilitate development in any country. However, whereas the first three activities can be renewed and replaced, the latter are finite and exhausted. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development is a key participant in mining, quarrying, and oil production. This makes it extremely important for us to plan wisely on how best to harness these minerals in a sustainable manner for the benefit of both the current and future generations. Previously, progress towards sustainable development has been slow because of the belief that conservation and development are opposite and can never coexist. This has been mainly drummed up by certain civil society organizations, especially those operating in the Albertine Graben, with a belief that Uganda's oil should be left in the ground. As a government, we are committed to ensure that we harness this God-given gift to develop the country, bearing in mind the harm that exploitation can cause. Petroleum is a finite resource whose exploitation must not destroy our rich biodiversity, which has handed us foreign exchange over the years. That's why we have made it clear to all oil companies that environmental protection comes first. As you are aware, most of the oil activities are taking place in the areas of rich and delicate biodiversity and human settlement. Government understands that most of our people depend on the environment for their livelihood, and that oil and gas are finite resources that need to be managed with utmost care. We would like to assure Ugandans and the rest of the world that Uganda will extract its oil without compromising the environment. The crude oil from the Albertine Graben is waxy, meaning that it solidifies at room temperature. This reduces the movement of oil spillage on the ground, making it easier to contain and clean up. For ecologically sensitive areas, government in conjunction with oil companies will use the best available technologies to extract the oil to the surface. It is, however, important to understand that through sustainable natural resource management, the world can achieve both goals of exploiting nature while advancing development. The need to educate and empower the local community to take charge of their daily lives cannot be overemphasized. Government appreciates the work being done by civil society organizations in taking this education forward. Caution must, however, be taken not to agitate the community against developmental programs by only exposing them to worst-case scenarios, as most CSOs have been doing. Natural resources can be exploited without necessarily causing environmental degradation. The Ministry of Energy has emphasized restoration of land allocated to petroleum operations, and I am proud to say that we have been successful in this. If you are privileged to visit these areas within the Albertine Graben, you will be surprised that all you may see is an oil well head enclosed on barely a 10 by 10 meter piece of land. Also, government has developed a sensitivity atlas for the whole Albertine Graben, which shows areas that must be protected at all costs. Government has, in addition to the above, started working on a strategic environmental assessment spearheaded by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development to map out environmental concerns in the Albertine Graben. In addition, government has developed an environmental monitoring plan for the Albertine Graben and is in the process of developing an oil spill contingency plan. Government understands today's generation as well as tomorrow's must survive. We depend on natural resources for our survival, and if they are diminished, we risk our needs and those of the future generation. Because the world has been failing to care for these natural resources, our populations have borne the brunt of global warming as manifested through tsunamis, floods, landslides, and long droughts. It is paramount that our people, both in rural and urban areas, are educated on the benefit of sustainable management of natural resources, since human activities have serious impacts on the atmosphere. Since the mid-18th century, concentration of carbon dioxide has increased by 27% because of human activity and significantly damaged the ozone layer. Let me take this opportunity, therefore, to thank Africa Institute for Energy Governance for organizing this meeting, and the other two organizations, that is, National Association of Professional Environmentalists and Uganda Wildlife Society, who will be implementing this important noble work in the Albertine Graben. Let me also thank the Netherlands through its Foreign Affairs Ministry, who are the main supporters of this program. Your contribution will surely enable sustainable management of Uganda's natural resources. So we really wish to thank you. I therefore take this opportunity to open this short seminar on the Ecosystem Alliance Program in Uganda. God bless us.
So he said we must work in Kasese, around Lake Katwe, and in Kamwenje, and in Hoima, and you really for bringing that program to you. You are not happy about it. Thank you very much. Maybe we shall invite you again at the evaluation. I'm sure you'll say, please continue. If there is one or two comments, I can allow them. since the event has been. And I see many others, unless you tell me. So, Beatrice Anyo.
Honourable Minister, Your Excellency, the Deputy Ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sechkubu. I'm an MP, but I'm here. I can't agree more with what he has mentioned, that most of our people depend on the environment. And indeed, he has made strong remarks to that effect. Well, I wish we could walk the talk. Mine really is to emphasize that indeed, all the presentations, all the remarks, if at all they can capture that spirit. And indeed, the minister was wondering that we shouldn't pick on the worst scenario, case scenarios. But then, when you see where others have passed, and indeed you see that you are taking the same trend, surely you can't fail to get worried. And it is in that spirit that the organizers probably would put the minister to rest and say that if at all these concerns about the environment, if at all we could enhance the modern way of extracting oil, but at the same time keeping intact the environment, or to use our environment in a sustainable way, that would be the best way to go. For instance, the pictures and photographs shown 10 meters there from where the oil drilling is taking place, 10 meters, that is an indicator that we are so far behind other countries. Because in other countries, as a matter of policy, in such environmentally sensitive places, they engage in horizontal drilling, 1 kilometer vertical and 1 kilometer horizontally. So it means that by those pictures themselves, we are not doing best. Yet we have the advantage in that already other companies and other countries have taken that path. So for you to show us that you know it's there 10 meters, yet we know the horizontal drilling can take place 1 kilometer away from an ecosystem sensitive area, that one is an indictment. We already know that there are other better ways we can exploit on our resources. And lastly, our researcher, I think before we can really thank these companies that you know because they put signposts, they are environmentally sensitive, they are sensitive about the health and the safety of the workers, we should thank them. Wait a moment, because then you are running ahead of your time. Wait for the extra results as they come, as they emerge. Certainly, we are pleased when such companies go out, like how you've been mentioning, you know, involving in the community activities. But what is the net margin cost and loss of such an extension? Is it genuine? You get to realize that even that is charged on government as a recoverable cost. So it isn't really the philanthropy of these companies, but it is what they are looking for, and would have wanted that an incisive research should be done. Pleasing the LC1 chairperson or the sub-county LC council isn't the end in itself, but let's look at the microcosm, let's look at the macro aspect of it, so that once we come to appreciate, we appreciate it in full totality, when we know the returns out of that. Just one on my part as an MP. There has been several farm downs. I don't know whether the minister will have the opportunity to respond. The first farm down has ended us in UK. The matter is in UK with Heritage. Now, the latest, who assured, even against the parliamentary resolutions that allow Taro and Total, the farm down to Taro and Total, for the cost of 2.9 billion. What have we got as government out of that transaction? Have we as a country got our share? Have we? So really, we are not here meant to accompany others as they take the best out of it. But we as a country, now you are in charge of this country. What deal have you made for our country? For the millions of other Ugandans who may not be in this room, to really look into your eyes. I mean, what have we gotten as a country? Despite this rosy picture and all this, can you assure us that indeed, when you went against parliamentary resolutions, stop any transaction in the oil until the proper laws are in place, with a hurry that you know, if we don't, these countries are going to move their investment elsewhere? You received information from the Chinese government that indeed in 20 years, this oil is going to become obsolete, so we better hurry to sell when the window is still open. Now, really, Honourable Minister, have we really got our share as Ugandans? I thank you very much.
Her Excellency, the Deputy Ambassador, the directors of the various friends of the environment, and dear participants, colleagues in the struggle. I think my colleague has put a lot on the table, and I don't want to be seen repetitive. I would just want to thank the organizers and request you that you expand this network. The network ought to be expanded because all of us are stakeholders. And I strongly believe that unless we, the owners of this natural resource, take charge, not even governments, my brothers there, will take charge on our behalf. It's controversial, but I believe as a mother that unless I take charge of my own child, nobody else will do it. And the environment is our mother, is our child. That's our livelihood. So expand the network and let the natives, the citizens, take charge of protecting this environment. Any political leader like me, we shall be brought to order. Take it or leave it. The truth is that the power belongs to citizens. You should never allow yourselves that your interest, that the future of our children is placed in the hands of politicians only. And two, I think also, I would want to, maybe for the benefit of the colleagues here, the minister, I think we have another house where we can heat it up. I would have thought that we would have had more of your message. We are your servants, by the way. You should have brought that on board so that when we go in that house of ours, even if there are numbers, even if there's I and whatever, but your message would have been made. Some of us are your ambassadors. And we promise that we shall be on the front line to deliver your message. So that we in the, okay, we can say the government because I'm part of it as a member of parliament, but my brother here should answer to Ugandans how much effort in terms of the budgeting, in terms of walking the talk, as my colleague has said, in conserving the environment, leave alone appreciating that when we pass Mavira, everybody feels and breathes fresh. Despite the fact that when we go to Chobe, we see already conflicting interest. Everything's put at stake. Are you allowing us to take the whole of you Ugandans for a ride? I mean, I'm just challenging the house. What message are you giving me, Mama, tonight to take on the wildlife and conservation of the environment? We shouldn't be talking, we should be listening to you. And the minister here, when she goes and denies the thing, we push that. On that day we were told there's a problem. We have not done enough. I think that the budget shows how serious you are to conserve and promote the wildlife and conserve our environment. We can go for development or investment, but it shouldn't be, I repeat, at the expense of the future generation, of our own survival. I think it should all be for the good of this country. Lastly, as I sit down, I also just want to thank my partners for standing with with us throughout. Tata Mavira, you still remain Tata Mavira. Others want to claim. I've just told somebody that you can only become a father when you were there. Others are uncles and guardians. So you were there when the Mavira was being born. So you remain the Tata Mavira even if you are outside. Others are guardians and uncles. Others are happy to be here. Thank you.
I will still have to thank the organizers of this forum because it is so important. On behalf of the people of Bulisa, I would like to appeal to organizers of such forum to reach out to the people so that, for example, such a function, this launch, if it were in the Alberton Rift, it would have made more sense because certainly in the area of civil society, Uganda, like many other developing countries, if not all, we are still weak. We still suffer from civic deficit. Our civic competence is still low, so we need really an aggressive drive as far as strengthening citizens in articulating, in demanding for their rights really effectively. So this move should be made aggressive. Certainly you will meet a lot of resistance because, as you well know, in government, even in the parliament itself, the executive enjoys a weak parliament. And at the level of government in general, a weak civil society is soft ground or soft landing for government. That's what they enjoy. The democracy is failing in our third world because we have not strengthened it holistically. We think only politicians make politics or bring democracy. But it is civil society as masters or politicians who make really democracy possible and rights and the interests of the people attended to effectively. So this is my appeal, but I should not hesitate to say that the NRM is on the right course. Exaggeration, yes, because some civil society organizations actually lack the authority to make some statement they are making, because they are also sometimes even as shallow, if not shallower. So we need also civil society to be effectively empowered so that what they state is not just alarmist but to the point, in order that we balance demands and reality. I thank you very much.
Thank you, navigators of the Women's Association. We really need to go further than what we normally hear from government. Because I remember 2008, I also had a key address of the Minister, and today we had this one. So we were very excited about beginning a special environment in Hoima. But the issues are different. Activities have gone there, so many trees have been overhauled because of the activities of oil, but there is no deliberate effort by government and affirmative action to replace these trees that have gone. We are trying, but we are incapacitated as NGOs. The Environment Monitoring Program and the strategy, we don't see them yet. Maybe they are still at the center. So we are thinking that maybe a secretariat can be from the Ministry of Energy, can come down so that we can access information, or maybe empower the local environment, so that really we move. On natural resources, the community is already there, are skeptical about what government do about them. Because actually surveys at the lake, civic surveys, tampered with the breeding areas, and the communities around, whenever we go, they raise the issue of less catches in the water. So we expected that the money that came through taxes to government would have deliberately begun with preparing those communities as incentives. Their natural resources, the land where they live, the road and other things because of oil. There's a lot of outside communities. So anxieties are very there. We appreciate, but let's do more. So we hope this program will help us and the government can do more. Thank you very much.
I know the community
are more destructive to what we are doing here. Whatever we do, as long as we don't put on tough laws, nothing will be done. I'm just requesting, honorable ministers, as you go to parliament, we need more tough laws as far as conservation is concerned. Otherwise, we can do nothing when we're on the side of implementation. Thank you so much.
I'll be a bit polite, but I have to say my point. When you look at Kasese district, we live in an abundance of natural resources. Look at the rivers. We have over 5 power stations, hydropower stations. But how much is being plowed back to manage the catchments? Nothing. Look at the national parks around us. We are surrounded by 3 national parks. How much goes back? Completely nothing, except for the little money from gate collection. Look at the minerals, salt, cobalt, copper. What is the point I'm trying to deliver? I'm trying to emphasize that as we manage these natural resources, as the government, as we tap the revenue, the associated revenue, if we don't give regard to the natural resource space, then we are fighting a losing battle. We have silently talked about payment for ecosystem services. I think it is high time that Parliament came out boldly and emphasized the principle or the policy on payment for ecosystem services. Because if we are milking without planning back, what is the future of what we are milking? So it is very important that Parliament comes up strongly and emphasizes the policy on payment for ecosystem services, so that we can be able to plow back and we know what is the percentage. How much are we supposed to plow back? As we milk, how much should go back? Because it is a silent policy. And of course the line ministry to come up with guidelines, how to implement payment for ecosystem services, so that we can be able to realize the benefit today and in the future. So it is very important that parliamentarians take up this and be able to emphasize this, so that, can you imagine, supposing we are getting only 0.1% out probably of the revenue, probably the profit out of the hydropower stations in the Kasese, how much money would be plowed back? But look at the budget of the district, out of a budget like 40 billion, but natural resources has only 20 million. Yet all these resources, all the revenue sources are dependent on the natural resources. I think my point of emphasis is payment for ecosystem services has to be emphasized and implemented. Thank you.
Many good words, and he has succeeded. He's saying we should walk the talk. Yes, the draft legislations are already, the bills are already with you, and we walk the talk. So it is not us only who will walk the talk, it is you, the way you make the legislation. Otherwise, with the policies which we have already developed, I think they are all geared to walking the talk. So there is no fear at all in that direction. This drilling and let's say about the farmings, farm downs, the buyouts and what have you. So the first one I know is when I was in this ministry is this engagement of the farm out by heritage. The farm out means you are bought and you go away. So heritage went away, and through our calculations of what they had put in, we saw the difference when they saw their interest. Interest means what you expect in the future, that maybe it will be there. So usually what they do, you calculate what you think they have put in, then subtract it from what others have offered. And then the difference, according to our laws, you tax at a percent. That's exactly what we did. And of course, some companies have not come. They are not our sisters, or let's say they are aunties. So they were refusing, saying, no, you are not supposed to do this. We said the law is saying this. And that's why internationally you are allowed to go for arbitration and laws and courts. So they went. We are tussling them and saying, no, we must have something for this country. Then we are doing a good job to defend it. Of course we need something. Because they didn't sell nothing, at least some interest. If they didn't come here, they would have not got that money. And that's why we are saying, even if you have not sold any oil, please, that thing which you have said is there and attracted these people to pay you, give us our 30%. Even now, the Snook and Grove, we have imposed a 30% charge. They are supposed to pay us, and they will pay us if they have not paid now. Otherwise, the others are paid, they will also pay us. We are starting to get the money before we have sold a liter of diesel or of any oil out, not yet. So I think we are doing the right thing, and that's why I say it will be there. And of course, the districts are thinking, why don't you give us part of the tax money? This tax money goes to the national coffers, and it comes to everybody. But when it comes time of selling even 1 liter of oil, you are entitled to royalties. And it will be a lot because the oil in the ground which you have found is too much. So you will be getting all the time, you hear so many barrels of diesel of oil have been sold, you will get your part. And it is already described in the bills in the Parliament. So it is the wisdom of Parliament to tell us these are the quantities and the percentages which we can confirm to go to the districts. The bills are still there. So to say that we continued to sell even when, to farm out when the bills are there, these were ongoing transactions, honorable members of Parliament, and we didn't want to annoy the companies which helped us to drill and go away. We wanted them to be retained here. There's nothing else we have done to keep them here. When the bills are ready and the act is in place, we go for production. We don't have to wait. Otherwise, if they wait for a long time, they will not move and they will be charging us when they are idle. We say continue. But all the plots which we have already divided, because we gave out for exploration 40% of those plots. 70%, 60% have not been touched at all. So when the bills are on, those will be offered for competitive bidding. So all of us are encouraged to come and we apply and we go to drill, depending on your ability to do so. So I think we are moving very well. And now the existence of these groups which have come now to help us to maintain the environment, we are very happy because they give us the information, they work together with us, you are stakeholders. We don't say this is a bad thing, and we are very happy. Even in advanced countries, that's what they do. So we do a lot of guidance. With the environment, really we have written a lot of environment. Whatever we do there is always NEMA officials are with the companies, they are also with us, the government, the Ministry of Energy. We have got those responsible for water. We have got those responsible for wildlife. So all of us are there. It is not only our part, because the other people are technical, professionals in their fields. They should be moving with us. Because we are mindful for what Sheikh Ufa says, please walk the talk. And that's how we want to walk the talk, to be together with our people. Well, Mama Mabira, we thank you for the advice you are giving us, because you said generally what we should be doing. And of course, you are saying that when we go to Parliament, where you are responsible for advising the country, you will be able to participate very well. And I would like to say those districts where we are operating, the Lokumus, the chairman there, they are always involved in all these things we are doing. When we started, there was almost pessimism to say things will not move, there is going to be this. Because of constant meetings, workshops by both the civil society organizations, NGOs, and the government, we have come to the mend. We are now understanding each other. And our people are frontlining and saying, I think we are moving in tandem with what we want to do. Yes, my friend from Kasese, I was greeting them in Kasese. They know me very well. Because some of them were born when I was their boss. I stayed in Kasese for 4 years, very nice people, very hardworking. And that's why I told them, must be. I still remember that one. So for the last 20 years when I left there, I still remember. This is your father Lokeris, and he used to call me so. Because when I left, people were crying. After I had demobilized Nalu, and I forced power and Foba from oil, from those minerals. I'm sure if you went to your treasury, you will find that from the limestone, the quarries which are there, all the quantities are valued, and we give the money to local government there. We give the money to the Ima Town Council, and now we have extended to say a parish where there is limestone or there is any mineral mining, they are also due. The only thing I don't know is the cobalt, because the cobalt was heaped there, and now the cobalt industry is taking cobalt and manufacturing whatever they do. I don't know whether that is mining or just scooping what was put there long ago. I need to know whether it is still mining or not mining. And of course, proceeds from the factory. That is the Ministry of Trade and Industry. It's not our business. What our business is what you dig from down, and then we follow it up. Even the hydros which are there, we are trying to think that where the hydros exist, we need to give some money to the district administration. I'll let you know sometime how we have moved with that, so that at least where these things come from, there is some benefit for districts. Even you people in Bulisa, those people who come from Beseruka, there should be something going there in the future. So we go on innovating all the time, so that people from the source benefit. But at times people want too much, not thinking that the country is there. Country is there. We need also to think about our brothers. Tomorrow, when the oil is finished from Kasese, from Bulisa, and when it start the time of Karamoja, where I come from, there's oil there. You don't know.
Kingdom of the Netherlands and the people of the Netherlands, I am pleased to be here today at the official launch of the Uganda chapter of the Ecosystem Alliance program. Constantly, world leaders are shuttling the globe to meet and discuss policies and solutions to the natural threats we are facing. The degradation of the environment and climate change affect the lives of all of us through poor harvests, floods, hurricanes, tsunamis, and the like, leading to disastrous pain and poverty. No time in world history has shown us the urgency of addressing these global challenges than the present time. The Uganda chapter of the Ecosystem Alliance we are launching today will focus on the environmental sustainability of Albertine Rift region of Uganda. At global level, the Ecosystems Alliance program is supported through a consortium comprising of Wetlands International, both ends, and led by IUCN Netherlands Committee. At national level, this arrangement has been retained, and the Uganda chapter is implemented by a consortium of civil society organizations here today, namely NAPE, AFIEGO, and Uganda Wildlife Society. While the embassy here is not directly involved in the implementation or its funding, the Netherlands government has made it possible to invest approximately up to 25 million euro globally and 1 million euros to the Ugandan chapter between 2011 and 2015 under the MFS2 program. Coming back to the content of the program, the Alliance program finds the Albertine Rift region most suitable to address people's livelihoods, as these are derived from the rich ecosystems and biodiversity resources that are facing growing economic pressures. In order to adjust to the new economic reality, the consortium of NGOs implementing this program will work closely together with relevant government institutions and non-government stakeholders to demonstrate the fact that the livelihoods options of the people of the targeted locations can be enhanced through sustainable use and management of ecosystem, as well as through people's participation in planning and decisions regarding the use of these resources, and overall social and economic development. Furthermore, the program seeks to empower the people of this region with opportunities to adapt to climate change effects. I'm also very pleased with the element of the program that will aim to minimize the ecological footprint of Dutch and other EU companies. That is also part of corporate social responsibility that my government promotes. I would like to ensure the partners, NAPA, AFIEGO and Uganda Wildlife Society, and the government of Uganda of the importance my government attaches to the goals and objectives of this program. I wish to challenge the program implementers and the beneficiaries to work hard and achieve the intended results so that the lives of the targeted people and the well-being of these ecosystems are improved. So that Uganda, that is ahead of the other countries in the East African region with regard to the exploitation of its energy resources, becomes a role model for this as well. Once again, I would like to thank you all for honoring the invitation and the organizers for all the preparations put in making this launch a reality. The wide array of stakeholders present here today shows that there is great...
So, there is that step I think they will deal with whatever you might do.
Is that the royal terraces? I think some.
No, we are looking at the issues of ecosystems degradation. Like, for example, in Kasese, we are looking at areas of Lake Katwe, Salt Lake, which is degraded, completely degraded. And we are seeing how we can restore those ecosystems, like the vegetation, but also talk with people to see whether we can reduce or help the people to get the salt from the lake in a sustainable way. That is one. When you look still in Kasese sub-region, like in Mwocha area, River Mwocha, which supplies water to communities down, we are going to see how we can help the people utilize that water, but also see whether we can recover the vegetation, whether we can plant some trees. And when you go to Kamwenge, like River Mpanga, it has also been degraded. We are going to work with communities and see how they can plant some trees to see how they can, in the catchment area, to see how the water can be got from those catchment areas. And when you go to Bulisa and Hoima, you are talking about oil. And you know, those areas are very fragile areas. They are mining, they'll be getting oil right off from Lake Arbat. And we are saying that we need to work with the people, with the communities, see that they don't lose out in terms of land, in terms of fisheries, in terms of even participation itself. And we're also looking at RED, how it will benefit people and how people will participate. So it's a range of a number of ecosystems.
Maybe all these areas are aquaculture dominated. Are you addressing that? Because there is mining taking place in all those areas, which eventually ends into the lakes.
Yes, but the most important thing is we want to empower the communities, the people, to see how they understand these issues of mining versus the ecosystems, so that one area is not over-degraded, over-utilized, over-exploited, so that people really participate in these issues and see how they can help those ecosystems survive.
Maybe what I would like you to specifically address.
I think why this program is very unique is that many organizations, we are talking about an alliance of 3 organizations. For example, if you find that NAPE is weak, then Uganda Warrior Society is strong. Where it is weak, then we have FIEGO strong. And also, as you saw in this meeting, we have the district leaders participating in this program and the community leaders. So in this way, we are having all of us moving together. For example, there has been a fear that in places like Bulisa, you cannot talk about issues of oil. The district leadership will not allow you. But now you saw them here. They are saying you come and implement these activities in that region. So it means now if that has been an impediment of the district officials not understanding our work, now they're understanding it. So it's them calling us to come and work in that area, talk about oil issues, work with communities. Actually, they said we should go and mobilize the people. That was from the district leadership. So to me, that's why we have been having some impediments. But now, if those are solved, then I don't see why we cannot work.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in conservation, we try and encourage the sustainable use of natural resources. And because if resources are not used sustainably, they diminish, and of course, they could diminish to a level where they disappear completely. So, and if they disappeared completely, we would have nothing to use. So it is absolutely essential that we use natural resources sustainably. And to do that, we need to harvest as much as we conserve the same natural resources. Or if there are, for example, trees that we cut down, we must plant trees in order to sustain the renewability of those natural resources.
For example, you are going to implement a project in Bulisa, and we just saw undersized fish. Now, 2 aspects come in. The overfishing and then the challenges of the oil cuts, which would be ending maybe in the lake.
No, what we saw in the picture were small-sized fish that had been caught by using wrong sized nets, nets with a small mesh, ones that catch both the little ones as well as the big ones. The ideal way of fishing is to use a big-sized mesh so that the big fish are caught and the small ones, the ones that have not reached maturity, are allowed to go, to pass through the net and go. What we saw, the picture we saw, was a picture of wrong fishing in every way. And therefore, for us to sustain the fisheries of Lake Albert or any other lake for that matter, we must engage in responsible fishing. Responsible fishing means that we should use proper mesh sizes, that we should allow breeding stock to breed by allowing them to breed in certain designated areas, base of the lake, so that, the resource remains renewable. Otherwise, there will never be, there will be no fish to catch in the future.
Does your project address this?
Yes, the project will address that. We've just launched the project, and one of the core activities of that project is for it to work with the fish folk, the people who do the fishing, sensitize them about the value of responsible fishing, so that they use the right mesh, so that they we agree with them. They put reserve areas for fish breeding, so that there is fish today and also in the future.
The environmental challenge in Bulisa mainly is about waste management, because we have now stockpiles of wastes from the drill sites. They are being stocked on some particular sites, and we are very worried on how these piles of wastes, the wastewaters and the drill cuttings.
Are you suggesting that they are not buried professionally?
Actually, they are not buried. They are just being kept pending NEMA's decision on how they will be managed, whether they will be buried, whether they will be I don't know, treated, whether the soil will be treated and may be taken to wherever. But
what does TALO say? And have you tried to take soil samples to find if these oil cuttings are not polluting the ground? I
don't know what TALO says, and we've not taken samples, but NEMA has. NEMA has taken samples, and it has been discovered that there are some heavy metals like lead in some of the wastewaters and mud cuttings, and it is also believed that once these wastes infiltrate into our water aquifers, into the lake, into our rivers, it may cause a lot of harm, especially to our fish. And you are aware that in Bulisa, fish is, I think, one of the primary mode of livelihoods.
So as we mark World Environment Day, what is your message in relation to these oil cuts?
As we mark World Environment Day, my appeal is mainly to these oil companies and NEMA as the authority body. They should pronounce themselves on these mud cuttings. The wastes. They've spent a lot of time, and actually their stay on those sites is long overdue. Should pronounce themselves on the wastes, and they should actually be removed.
Are you suggesting that would you request that part of this money for this alliance go to environment? What would you are given this money? What do you think should be directed at the environmental sector?
Well, what I was thinking of is a lot of awareness creation. Is what I'm thinking about. People in Bulisa, well, they may not be aware because they are just onlookers. A lot of them are spectators about this oil thing. They don't know how to harness into it. And what I'm envisaging is a situation whereby this oil resource is going to be exploited, it's going to be depleted, and the whole place is going to stay the way it is if any intervention, especially on awareness creation, is not made. If these people are not prepared for the resource.
What's your name?
I'm Philip Ngonga Kutegeka, Environment Officer, Bulisa.
Thank you.
Welcome.